okay with that. Hello, everyone who's there and virtually, like myself. My name is Kalela Gembra. I'm the lead Folio product owner, but I've been using Jira for a very long time. And Peter and Peter will introduce himself in a minute. We want to talk about Jira. As many of you may or may not know, well, Jira is like the central nervous system for Folio. Everything that happens in Jira. What we decided to do for features in a release, what bugs we fix, priority, when they'll be released, progress, enhancement requests, everything happens in Jira. It's very important. And so this session is meant to get feedback as to how we can improve Jira for those who are from, who use Jira a lot or may not. We want to know what's challenging, what can be improved. Want to figure out if there's some ideas that could help address these issues, because we know there's some Jira gurus out there. And if you are a Jira guru, please let us know, because we would love to learn from you what we can do to improve the Jira experience for folks using it with regard to Folio. And then related to that, we'd like to hear from you some tips and tricks or things that you're doing in Jira that you think would be beneficial for us all to learn. So that's my introduction to the session. And now I am handing it off to Peter to give his introduction.
Right. So I'm Peter Murray, the open source community advocate at Index Data, and also generally technology coordinator for the Open Library Foundation and the Folio project. I will add to what Kalela said that Jira is the lifeblood of, if Jira, maybe we can say Jira is the heartbeat of the project and Confluence is the brain of the project. That said, our heart and our brain are 10 years old since we've been using them since the project started. And they have some cruft, and the way we use Jira certainly has some inertia that helped us in the early days and might be not so helpful now. And so we're interested in hearing about those kinds of friction points and where we might be able to improve how Jira is set up and configured now, so that it helps the project going forward. We started using Jira and Confluence self-hosted in the server version when the project started. Last January, there was the forced migration by Atlassian for everybody to the cloud. That has resulted in some good things. That has resulted in some not so nice things. Perhaps the one I hear most often is how templates or issue templates are no longer intuitive. And so maybe we can, again, if there are Jira experts out there who can help us get templates moving better, that would be helpful as well. I think that was my introduction, Kalela.
Okay. So Peter, if it's okay, I'm going to post this in chat, and feel free to, this is informal, so feel free to talk if you'd like, or ask your questions in chat. As Peter mentioned, he'll perform the role probably of Phil Donahue, and going around, for those who know who Phil Donahue is, he'll go around the room to answer, or so folks can ask their questions or provide some comments who are in person. So first off is I would
also say if you're in the room, this is a working document. If you want to open up Kalela's whiteboard, it's probably the most recent thing that's been edited on Confluence, and that might be the easiest way to find it, or go to Kalela's user page and find it from there. This is a laptop's open session if you want to make your own notes on this document as well.
Yes. And so I've posted this in chat because as we want to collect what we're hearing from everyone. And so I want to give folks a couple of minutes, and maybe as Peter goes around the room, to enter or put on these sticky notes what is challenging or what can be improved. We'll focus on that for now, and then we'll move on to the other questions. But for those who are either new to JIRA, sort of, not so new, super experts, what is challenging or what can be improved about the Folio JIRA experience? And so feel free to add your points to a sticky, and then we'll talk about it and then move on to the next question. And for those who are in the room who may not have access to this board, Peter will go around the room and I can actually type in your feedback.
We've got one here. 1 second.
All right.
Thanks, Peter. Sorry, all my technology is dead at this point of the day. So, one challenge I've been having is permissions, like who gets permissions to like create a JIRA and then do certain functions like apply labels in JIRAs, and just knowing that. Yeah.
Yeah, permissions in general, yes. So we had a couple people walk into the room. This is a kind of a working group session. We've started with a question about what is it about JIRA that is a pain point for us now? What are issues with JIRA that's holding us back? We started by recognizing that JIRA is kind of the lifeblood of the project, the heartbeat of the project, if you will. And so what is challenging about JIRA and what can be improved? The first item there was user permissions. Who has access to create JIRA issues? Who has access to add labels? Probably also who has access to transition issues from one state to the next. What is the policy or the practice for that?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Anyone else, either online, feel free to unmute yourself, or here in the room. Oh, yes.
Hi, Susan Kimball. I'm a co-convener for the Resource Access SIG. So one of the challenges is the cruft, right? Like the just total sheer number of JIRAs. And so one of the things, this is sort of an ask for the whole community. The RA SIG, and we are an old SIG, we have a lot of cruft in there. And so we're making our way through old tickets that can be closed. We're actually closing quite a few. But that would be an ask for all SIGs to do that process, because I think there's a lot of duplication that we're finding. There's a lot of just development that has happened that made tickets irrelevant. And so we sort of had to do it before we can do the prioritization, because we sort of don't know all the things that are still in there that are just kind of lingering. So I would encourage other SIGs to do that as well.
If Susan, if I can vote on this, which I can, I would agree with you. I actually, I think I can. I think I can vote on this. I will vote in a minute. I agree with you. And in fact, I did some stats on the numbers, and I will share the number of features that per SIG, and the numbers are pretty high. And so that effort to spend time basically refining that Folio JIRA backlog would be immensely helpful for all of us, I think. So I'll share those numbers in a minute.
And for those that are not deeply involved in the project, the product council asked the SIGs to come up with their top 5 development priorities. And so the process of going through the old JIRA issues, I can imagine that can stop hearts with the amount of cruft that's in there.
So just some stats that I'll put here. I'll put it in chat, and then I'll go back to sharing my screen in a minute, just because I just want to, just in case folks are not aware. UX Prod has about 14, almost 1,500 features. Now this is analysis I did a month ago, with 29% of those features created 5 years or earlier. So that's a lot of features that we really do need to review across the board as a community review and decide what are some next steps regarding that work. And then I'm going to share a few more stats. This is again based on UX Prod. I'm not sure how it's going to show up in Teams, not Teams, but in Zoom, but I'll go ahead and share that. So this is the stats I'm going to share are based on labels. So UX Prod features by area labels. And so here are some of the ones that are still unresolved in these areas. And I'm not done. And here's a list of some other ones too. So to kind of further confirm Susan's point or support Susan's point, yeah, refining would be very, very, very beneficial to us all. It gets a little, it's pretty heady sometimes in JIRA.
And I'm looking at the discovery one and 8 issues. And so I'm the convener of the discovery SIG. And speaking to like the closing of JIRA's issue, so we went through a whole list of things that just mentioned discovery. We weren't even sure if they had anything to do with front-end user discovery. And we were like, who put this here? Why do they want this? There's nobody, like, they've left, and then we're like, do we keep it? Or like, who could close it? And we didn't have answers to any of those questions. So like, I love the idea of like, let's close a bunch, but I'm like, I don't know in practice how to do that, following the rules of the software, but also following the rules of the project.
So I can talk about how we did it with the resource access SIG. And yes, I see that we have 312 there, Kalila. We're working our way through that.
I know you guys are, yeah.
And so the way we are doing it is basically we have 2 meetings a week. So every other week on Thursdays, we meet and we talk about these and we slog through them one at a time. And so what we're doing is tagging them as RA, either RA intend to close, RA further refinement, because a lot of them are in draft and just are not development ready. And then we also have a few that are like ready for dev, very few of those. But what we're doing is we went through by development team. So we're chunking them out basically. And then once we've finished one, we send the ones we are intending to close to the SIG through Slack, and everybody can weigh in on them and say, these are the ones we think we don't need. And then people can speak up. If something is closed and it's a mistake, it can always be reopened or rewritten. I mean, some of them we're closing because they're so old, they need to be written from scratch. It's not that the need isn't there, but the development has gone beyond how it's written. And I imagine in discovery, some of those might touch other areas, right? So I think having them out in places in Slack where it would reach the audiences that might have some input before they get closed would be the one. But you should have the ability to at least, I can't close tickets either, but I can label them. But people can in RA, so product owners and things like that.
Yeah, I think I reacted surprised because I think that the UX prod project is one that has special permission. So I think there's projects, of course, the mod this and the UI that and the edge this and so forth, that the product owners probably want a little more control over. But UX prod is a different animal, and so the permissions there should be different. And if they're not reflecting what people need them to be, then we have some work to do. I would offer, coming into a bunch of old issues, there are presumably people that made them are watching them, which is to say, if they're still involved in the project, they will get a notification if you put a comment on it saying that, we're going to consider closing this, or we're going to consider this at such and such a meeting, and it will notify the watchers on that issue. And I would say if you do that to 50 tickets a week and you get nobody that comes back and says, oh, this is my favorite one, then I think you're free to, exercise prerogative and close them. And if they need to be reopened, they'll get reopened. Yeah.
Yeah, I think listening to what Susan and Peter said, that seems like good things to follow. I think also, yeah, putting in a comment like Peter said, because maybe that PO is no longer a part of the Folio project because that feature is so old. But I mean, if you know the PO that is responsible for the area, and I know with Discovery it's a little sometimes murky, Nicole, but for others, I mean, if you know your PO and you're just not sure, and you've informed them that you're going through this exercise, I think just adding a comment will suffice. And I think in the case of Discovery, Nicole, you can always mention me, and I can talk to the applicable POs as to whether or not it's okay to to review that feedback that you provide in the comment about that feature. All right, just looking in the comments here. In a comment we've got is, would it be an option to automatically post a comment to all open your older, and if there's well, maybe that, I know, Peter, that Jira supports automation where you can set a rule like that says if you based on this precondition or action, then this action can happen.
Yes.
So maybe this is something we could do. I think, again, and it's something that doesn't have to be, it could be done. This is a possibility, but obviously we would want to make sure we have agreement in the community about what's that rule, and what are exceptions to that rule. But I think through the automation rule functionality in Jira, this is possible.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I'll add that into here too. I'm actually going to add it to this one. All right. And I think Laurel had a point. I just want to see if I could, no, Laurel, I thought you had something here, but I think, my library is considered doing that for our use, but we're hesitant to. Yep, okay. I think we're on the same page there. Okay. All right. I mean, does anybody else have any other things they want to express as far as anything that's challenging or could be improved with regard to Jira? Okay.
Yeah,
All
this
right.
is Nicole again. I'm so sorry. I have so many questions. We
Go
are in the
ahead.
thick of Jira right now. So, so one of the things, looking at it from not Discovery SIG, but from like my university uses Folio, and I'm we have index data hosting, and sometimes we're like, well, index data is going to do all the work for us, right? Like they will vote on the JIRAs, they will put in the necessary refinements, and we don't have to touch these. But then we talk with Tara at index data. She's like, actually, maybe you should be putting in comments and refinements in these JIRA tickets. Maybe you should be adding your university. And then I'll look and be like, oh, it looks like we used to do that, but we don't do that anymore. And like there's a bunch of fields that seem old, part of an older process, but they're still there. And then I don't have edit permissions anyways, and so I give up. But like how do we define what a ticket needs to look like and what roles different people at different levels have or can have to contribute to the ticket, to make it better, to make it something that will provide a solution for the issue.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Well, we had all those old voting fields
Yeah.
when we thought it was a good idea to give every institution a voting field.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when we were like 15, not 150.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think, I mean, I think what I heard and from Peter and you, Nicole, is review the old fields related to old prioritization methods, because there were multiple methods actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what I think you see, or what everyone sees, is the various methods that happen, just like Peter mentioned, where when Folio was just beginning, we did ranking, and then I think there was like a general ranking and then a PO rank, and then and now we're SIGs are voting, which I think is a great idea. So that, I think what I'm hearing is like reviewing the workflows and maybe helping, and that helps to streamline like it makes it easier for everyone to know, well, how do I share, I think this feature is important and why I think it's important.
Yeah, maybe there's like a guide to a UX prod. When do you comment? How do you comment? Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar. I think when we're reviewing tickets, we look at those comments. And so on the one hand, it's helpful to know what individual institutions are looking for. At the same time, it's not necessarily like that's one institution. So making a comment is a really good idea because it helps us think about how we want to refine the feature so that it meets the needs. And especially if you have a use case that's like, this is the use case and this is what it looks like, then that can be incorporated by the SIG or the PO into the actual feature, right? The other thing I would say about all those old rankings, even though they're very cluttery, maybe that's the cruft you're referring to, Peter, but that cruft, when we're reviewing tickets, we're like, oh, this is a Duke feature. It's out. Like the things that we know people are not on the project anymore. I think that's helpful for historical knowledge. I don't know what that means about, because they are included in the template. Do they still show up with new features? They do show up there, but they don't have rankings. But they're useful. They're useful in reviewing these old tickets, because we're like, oh, we thought this was a feature that was one.
Mm-hmm. So I'll put that down as how to manage access to historical data.
Yes, and I think a sub bullet of that is to refine the new issue forms, because I think all of those fields are still on some of those forms.
All right, I'm putting it in the ideas for addressing
Yes.
to deal with old processes.
And I can't see how many people are online, but I was wondering about giving some space for some people who are joining via Zoom to chime in here. You should be able to unmute yourself. I love you all too.
And I'm looking at Laurel's, I believe Laurel wrote this here for a non-developer. So it might be having a guide. And I know that there has been past WOLFcons where there's been some sharing of like what to include when reporting an issue. So maybe making that more accessible or like in a central place or maybe considering, coming up with a different guide for this. So maybe I'm going to put here guide for, how to submit.
I see people staring here. This one is for a non-developer beginner. It is not clear what the differences between the various projects are or what data is supposed to go in which field when reporting a problem. I'm not sure how much of a problem this is, though I rely heavily on EBSCO support as intermediaries.
Yeah, so this is the one, Peter, where I think there's been some past WOLFcon sessions done by Anne Marie and Anne Ekblad around submitting bugs. So it might be that we just need to expose that recording on the wiki page or maybe in Jira as a way to help, or there may need to be some documentation to say, hey, this is how this is what we need when you're reporting an issue in Folio.
Yes.
I know one thing I'll say about that because I'm going to go to my Jira real quick, and I have a filter. Well, actually, Anne Marie created this filter, but I use it at least once a week, and it's a filter called "Clean Up Bugs with No Dev Team." This is the filter. I'll share it in chat too. 1 second.
And while you're pulling that up, I'll just add for that previous thought that also in like the Jira template, when you're opening up a brand new ticket, it might be also helpful to link to the documentation right in it, saying like for more information, you can. And like there's already links in some of the fields, like for the priority, when you have a link to like here, get more information about the priority levels, it'd be nice at the top of the template for the new bug, it'd say get more information about how to open the whole bug ticket. Because I've also been in that position where I've wanted to open up a Folio bug, but then I open up the template, I'm like, I don't know how to fill out half of these fields or if I'm even in the right project.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. There's a lot of fields, and but I just want to share with this filter, just as an FYI, I use this filter all the time because when you don't, the development team field on a Jira user story is really important because a lot of times teams will not have it, they will not know that you created this issue. And so what happens is it just stays here and you don't get any updates or nothing's happening at all. The development team is typically used as a query for managing a team's backlog. So it's important to do one or two things. I think actually both when it comes to a defect. One, go ahead and add the support label. And because if you don't know the team for sure, the support team definitely does. So please do that, add that support label to this. But if you do know the team, assign the development team, because that is for sure a way that they're going to see it as a part of their backlog, because without that, they don't see it. And it's not until I go through this list once a week that I start assigning it to the teams or say, hey, by the way, I think this is something you need to look at. It's the same thing when it comes to this filter here. This is a cleanup feature stories task with no development team. I'll also share this in chat. But it lists every feature or story, which is probably more important for this group, that does not have a team assigned. And so there's a lot here, a lot of stuff you don't have to worry about. But if you have an enhancement request, again, I think it's a-okay to, if you know the development team for that enhancement request, to assign it to the team for them to review, or again, add that support label. I think having the support team look at that enhancement, or at least know who to assign it to, or, at least be able to get it to the right people is important, because I do look at this, But as you can see, it's a pretty lengthy list because it has a lot of security stuff here that I can't seem to clean up from the query. And right now some AQA or automated QA stuff here. So that's just some tips to, with regard to when you're submitting the bug or an enhancement request. All right.
Did we capture that comment about on the top of the new issue form, add a link to a document explaining the form?
Here I wrote guide for how to submit bugs, issues, review, WOLFcon, or link to documentation in the template or create an issue, but I could say create form, create.
Yeah, I think form is what JIRA calls it. Yeah.
Defect form.
Yeah.
Or bug form. So create bug form. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
All right. Let's see. I'm just going to look in chat. Yeah, thanks, Zach, for posting a link to the support SIG.
Should I bring up chat in the room?
If you'd like, I mean, there's some links in chat related to how to, the support SIG and how to, report a bug. And there's some questions, but I think we've addressed most of the questions except for in points. And one of the last points in chat is totally agree to the number of different projects, types of issues, and them being used differently in different projects is confusing. Yeah. Is there, I mean, how do folks feel about that, the statement? I would agree. I would say that first of all, but are there certain issue types or projects that are really confusing that you just like, I don't understand why we have like an epic versus umbrella versus a subtask. Why do we have that? I mean, so I'm curious what folks, how, what when they're saying the number of different projects and issues, what areas are really confusing, if that makes any sense of as far as a question goes.
Well, can you hear me? I'm not quite sure. I'm on the road right now.
Yes, we can hear you.
I totally understand. I mean, that every development team, every product owner working with teams or various teams in various contexts, they define the way they work, and JIRA is part of the way they work. So my thinking there is more that for the projects that are used by a particular development team, they need to be able to define their own JIRA workflows fitting their working style. So there should be an option for those issue types and how they're used and what fields they need to be different. But it is really intimidating. I'm still very new to the FOLIO project to understand exactly that. And have this idea, it's very different depending on who is primarily working with, but they are all connected or should be connected to UX prods, or most of them are. So if you're not sure where to start, go to UX prod, and here is the guide on how to work with UX prod. And if you are engaged more closely, look out for something on that particular team so that there are descriptions. Some of the development teams to do that excellently with a description of how they use JIRA and what it is intended to do in what way for their team. And if that would be more consistently done with a link provided for that particular project team, that could be really helpful. At least it helped me immensely for the development teams where I found something like that.
Yeah, so being able to go to know that, for example, the Benenvolk team, has a workflow, and being able to see, okay, this is how they work through their JIRA stories, and what the statuses mean, and having that per team, would be, it sounds like that's, would be beneficial.
Yeah, that were exactly my thoughts.
Okay.
And to put this into Jira speak, as far as I understand it, I think that would mean creating a scheme, like an issue scheme and um, a status scheme and so forth for each development team, and then give that team control over what that looks like for them. And I think Jira is made to do that. We're not currently doing it, but I think Jira is made to do that.
I think there are some teams, Peter, that do have different workflows in place, and you can then just copy. When you're creating a project, you can identify which ones, and then you can just copy their configuration. So it might be that, maybe there's a page that shares examples of different teams' workflows, and then when creating a new project, the team, a new team can say, oh, I want to use the ERM projects scheme because I want to follow their workflow. Or, maybe it's, hey, this, we might need to think of, naming conventions or something like that. But the only one I could think of is like, hey, maybe we want to use the UI orders workflow, because I think, just clone that. So I don't know, we might be able to figure out a way to better expose that, because teams are using different, some teams have changed their workflows.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they change it in one module, and then they may change it in all their modules, or I think that's some of the ways that they do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we only got 12 minutes left. Time flies when you're talking about Jira. And oh, by the way, a plug, 9:30 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, there will be a Ask Me Anything about Jira.
Office hours.
Office hours. Oh, yeah, thank you. That's better. But office hours. So we can continue the conversation regarding Jira tomorrow morning. So if we move to ideas for addressing these issues and challenges, we've already put through a few things here. We've already added a few things based on this discussion. I'm just looking at this one. Jira is a great tool for tracking how to implement a feature, but not a great tool for deciding a feature.
Khalil, that was me, Zach Burke, sort of reflecting on what I was hearing earlier about institutions, seeing those past ranking fields and things like that when we were really leaning hard on Jira to do some decision making early in the project. So that was really sort of a reflection of that conversation.
Yes.
But I don't read more into it than that.
No, I think this is good, because I do think that this is something we need to figure out how to make this this process a little bit better, because you're right. I know at some point we've had like templates for how to how features should be written, and we might need to revisit that along with the fields, so that's just a bit more consistent with what you see. I know for me, I have dashboards related to the features that are being worked on each release. Sometimes I look at the features and I'm not sure what they are. And so I think, and this is me. And so then I wonder, are there other folks in the same boat? So I think coming up with some ways to be more consistent as to what it is and why we're doing it, and having that, always a part of the feature is something we should consider as we think about the, refining the process. Okay. So Peter, I don't know if we have, I mean, these are all the things that have been posted so far about ideas for addressing the issue.
Yeah.
So I can move on to the last part, since we only have a few minutes left, which is, what cool things are you doing with Jira? And I know, Zach, you've posted a couple of things that I added here, related to some shortcut keys to searching Jira, and or the
We don't want
Folio
to read
Wiki?
those out in the room, or you can read them out in the room because the text is too small for us here.
Yeah. Zach, would you want to talk about these two?
Sure, that's just I'm constantly looking up issues in Jira, and someone will say, "Oh yeah, I just filed, UIU 123, and this is just instructions on how to create a shortcut so you can type UIU 123 into your browser and actually have it go to the Jira for that ticket." So you create a little shortcut key that basically, if you pick J as the shortcut or Jira as the shortcut, you would type Jira space UIU 1-123, and then your browser will automatically link directly to that. So if you're someone who spends a lot of time in Jira or looking up tickets, I found these to be handy shortcut keys. And you can do the same thing to, map directly to the site search for the wiki, for example. So you could type W space and then a search term, and it will automatically, open the wiki page with that search term as the keyword. So just helpful Chrome shortcuts. But if you spend a lot of time in those Atlassian products, for me at least, these have been handy time savers.
We're going to have to find a way to share those more broadly. I'm seeing nodding heads in the room.
I put them on
Okay.
Slack every couple of years, but stuff scrolls by on Slack and then it's sort of gone forever.
Fair enough.
All right. Is any suggestions or in the room?
Oh, got a hand?
And just to follow up about the search capabilities of Jira, I really appreciated how many they have and how easy it was to find documentation on how to do really advanced searching. And as a convener using Confluence to track tickets, the fact that you can easily embed tickets from Jira using the labels is great because I do not want to create a static table like ever really. But for things like that, to be able to just embed it using I think it's a plugin or
Yeah, a page add-on, I think they call it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I highly recommend doing that instead of a static table.
Yeah.
So you can
Now
create a search that populates the table. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And filters. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to yeah, it's a great handy tool. I totally agree with that. I use that, or I've used it in the past with the release notes where there's the known issues section where it's essentially a filtered table. In fact, I'll try to get to it right now.
It still floors me how many people use the URL wiki.folio.org to get here. That of course is what the wiki used to be called when we self-hosted it and we set up a redirect, and it gets used a lot.
It's just it's so easy to remember. It's just like it's I don't it's what I use. Yeah. Trying to see if I can get to the release notes. But 1 second. Once I find the release notes. I think these are the release notes. Okay. Maybe they're not here. Those are the capability updates. So I think I'm gonna have to go to ramp since it doesn't look like it was populated. Hang on, let me actually open up the menu so I can see it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now I can see things. But yeah, as you can, well, okay. There was at some point a table.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know where that table went, but there was definitely a table unless all the issues got resolved. And it was a table that that did show all the issues that were known. So I don't know if something changed or something got removed. And so that's why apologies for not checking. I know I added it because it was important to add, but typically what I do is use that filter that was mentioned. Just go, edit the field here, or edit the page, and then go here to find the ability to add the JIRA work items or issues to the page, and then it shows as a table, and it's fairly dynamic here. So now I have to look into, oh, well, that's weird. It does show up when I edit the record. So you can see here the issues. I don't know why it's not showing on view. So that might be something we need to look at. But as you can see here, this is exactly what has been described. Is there anything else that folks want to recommend or suggest? Okay.
Not seeing anything in the room.
Okay. One thing that I do a lot is actually we're going to go to Trillium. I have a lot of dashboards to kind of track the project, and see if I can just grab the Trillium one that I have. Guess me. Okay. So I like dashboards. They tell, I mean, if everyone's familiar, it tells a great story. And so I do use these dashboards quite a bit. And then I use the copy functionality so that all I have to do with every release is just change the queries. But what I like as far as a new feature is you can now copy this link that just gives you the one get widget. So if you don't want to copy the entire dashboard or send it off, and you just want to have a group of people just focus on the one area of information that's most important, you can now share that widget rather than the whole dashboard. So I find that pretty helpful to use. And another thing that I think can be helpful, but I haven't used very often, is the automation. So the ability, just like has been discussed, but setting up rules that will allow you to define to automate some of the workflows. So I guess an example of that I can share, that was just in mod search here. And see if I can get to the project, go to the project settings here. And so there's an automation option here. And before today's call, I just set up a rule that says, hey, when there's a P1 issue in mod search, please alert me. Please send me an email. And it's pretty straightforward what you can do. Just set up a rule. I mean, it's very user-friendly in setting up the rule. And so the rule is, like I mentioned, send me an email when this value changes to a P1. So that's pretty cool tool here to share. And I think we're at time, Peter. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to bring up.
I think I'm good, other than reiterate the office hours tomorrow morning. We can do more one-on-one work.
Yeah. And thank you for the feedback, Peter. Let's, spend some time over the next couple of weeks reviewing it and seeing what we can do as a group.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I didn't hear any JIRA experts chime in, but we'll continue the search for them.
Yeah, we will. Thank you, everybody online and in person for your time.
Thanks, Kalila.
Thank you, Peter. Bye.